Hey everybody, Stephanie here from the Machine Gun Nest with our legal update. So we have huge news, breaking news today. We finally have a decision from the Supreme Court regarding New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen. And the court has ruled in a 6-3 ruling that your Second Amendment right does indeed extend beyond the front door of your home. So this affects us in states like Maryland. It affects those in Massachusetts, New York, Hawaii, and the like. We've linked all these other may issue states previously. So the previous law stated that these states may issue you a permit requiring a good and substantial reason. And so what's happening now is that the good and substantial reason has been deemed unconstitutional. As long as you fulfill whatever state requirements there may be, the states are required to issue that permit to you. This is really exciting because previously, as it is here currently in the state of Maryland, it is subjective. Some people are deemed worthy enough to defend themselves while others are not. As it stands here in the state of Maryland, if you are a wealthy business owner or somebody with any fame, you are allowed to protect yourself, but you're not a business owner, or the state just simply doesn't think that you're worthy as a person, you're not allowed to have a concealed carry permit. So we're super excited to see this overturned. So what this means is this, that states who are in may issue permitting schemes will have to overturn that and must move to a shall issue permitting scheme. So here in the state of Maryland, it does not mean that right now, overnight, this is changing. There are groups waiting at the helm. They've been fighting this for a long time, like Maryland shall issue. So the next step is that here in the state of Maryland, this must be challenged. Then once that's overturned, which it will be because of the precedent set by the Supreme Court, then they're going to probably deliberate about what requirements there are. Here right now in Maryland, you have to take a CCW class, you have to get your fingerprints done, you have to have 2 passport photos, you have to have an interview, you have to have your references checked, and they're just going to be removing the good and substantial reason. So here's what's fascinating about all this and why this precedent extends beyond simply concealed carry permits. Justice Clarence Thomas, God bless that man, has said that intermediate scrutiny is not appropriate to come to these conclusions and that we should just stick to the historical context. I'm actually going to read to you something what he wrote. This is found on page 2 of the decision. You can go to scotusblog.com and read all of this, but I'm going to read it. He said the court rejects that 2-part approach as having one step too many, and he's talking about historical context and intermediate scrutiny. Step 1 is broadly consistent with Heller, which demands a test rooted in the Second Amendment's text, as informed by history. But Heller and McDonald do not support a second step that applies means-end scrutiny to the Second Amendment context. Heller's methodology centered on the constitutional text and history. It did not invoke any means-end test, such as strict or intermediate scrutiny, and it expressly rejected any interest balancing inquiry akin to intermediate scrutiny. So essentially what he's saying is this: intermediate scrutiny is a way for states to subjectively say that the ends justify the means to enact the state's individual interest without regard to federal law or what is constitutional. So the precedent set by this could affect our assault weapons ban. So here in the state of Maryland, we have an assault weapons ban, and some other states have similar rules in place, and components like a flash hider or a retractable stock, suddenly turn your firearm into a felony murder weapon. But these things are only held in place by intermediate scrutiny, as dictated by public safety. So essentially, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals has said that in the interest of public safety in the state of Maryland, and according to intermediate scrutiny, we are allowed to not have assault weapons, whatever they want that to be called here. We could see this case being called upon in other issues like this as well. So what is the immediate effect of this decision for us here in the state of Maryland? Well, on page 80, going forward, therefore, the 43 states that do employ objective shall issue licenses regimes for carrying handguns for self-defense may continue to do so. So the other shall issue states, they can just keep on doing what they're doing. Likewise, the 6 states, including New York, potentially affected by today's decision, may continue to require licenses for carrying handguns for self-defense, so long as those states employ objective licensing requirements like those used in the 43 shall issue states. So essentially, he's saying that as long as the requirements are objective in nature rather than subjective, like a good and substantial reason, because what is a good and substantial reason and according to whom, that they can still have licensing requirements in place. In the state of Maryland, you have to fill out your application, you have to have 2 passport-style photos taken, you have to provide references, you have to go through an interview, and there are waiting periods involved. Those requirements are still in place. So I project that in the state of Maryland here, it is wise to come and get your class taken care of right away. It is good for a long period of time. So while they're deliberating and while groups like Maryland Shall Issue will be hopping in, they're ready to take this down in the state of Maryland here, it would be wise to get that done. And as far as potential gun control in the future, not to be a negative Nancy and talk about potential negatives here, I do foresee some of these states potentially bolstering what those requirements are to throw some more obstacles in the way. And also, we've seen some other obstructions put in place. Like, for example, New York has already been moving to implement place restrictions on where you can and cannot carry a firearm. I foresee that happening more here in Maryland. So we're gonna see. I don't want to be too negative and talk about all the negative potentials just yet. I don't want to give anybody any ideas or anything like that. But we're going to celebrate, and this is really awesome. We have a lot of class availability here, and if you live in a May issue state, we're excited that you're going to be able to protect yourself. If you like this video, please share, and don't forget to hit subscribe.